Join me today for a journey into 90s horror with the movie Wishmaster. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about the 90s horror film Wishmaster. Now we're going to stick with the first movie. There are, in fact, like 4 of these, I think. They are of varying quality after the first one, just fair warning. So, Wishmaster is Wes Craven produced this movie. I don't remember if he directed it, but I know he produced it. This movie features numerous horror movie alumni. And, So, just kind of going down the list here. We have an opening voiceover. We'll actually have a brief scene of someone making a gemstone. Then we get to the voiceover, which is by Angus Scrimm, who is the tall man from the Phantasm movies. Another set of movies I need to talk about at some point on here. Also from the Phantasm movies, we have Reggie Bannister, who plays Reggie Bannister, I think. I know his character's name is Reggie. It might be Reggie Bannister. It might just go by his own name in the movie. I have to rewatch Phantasm now to know for sure. But anyway, he's a pharmacist. Then we have Robert Englund, who is an art collector. Probably, of these characters, probably the one we see the most of. A lot of these are just kind of cameos here and there. His assistant is Ted Raimi, who is in the movie for about 2 minutes before he gets crushed to death. Spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie. Actually, I think it's about a 25-year-old movie. It came out in the latter end of the 90s. We have Tony Todd, who is best known as the Candyman, but is also in... I guess I should explain who some of these people are. So let me back up just a little bit. Robert Englund, for those who don't know, is Freddy Krueger through most of the Freddy Krueger movies. In fact, outside of the remake, where it was Jackie Earle Haley, I believe, Robert Englund plays him through the rest of the franchise. Ted Raimi is the brother of Sam Raimi, the director of The Evil Dead 1 and 2, The Army of Darkness, The Quick and the Dead, Dark Man, which I did a video on earlier, about a month ago. And Ted Raimi's in that one too. Ted Raimi's in most of Sam Raimi's movies. And then Sam Raimi also directed the 3 Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire in them. Ted Raimi is in those movies as well. He's one of the people that works at the Daily Bugle. So Ted Raimi's in this. And then we have Tony Todd, who, as I was saying, is best known as the Candyman in, I think he's in 3 Candyman. I think there's 3 Candyman movies. And there was a recent remake or spin-off or something. I haven't seen it, so I don't know how it interacts with the rest of the series. But he's also in the 90s color remake of Night of the Living Dead. And he plays the mortician in a number of the Final Destination movies. I don't know if he's in all, I want to say 5 of them or not. And I know he also does like the voice for like the demon for the roller coaster in, I want to say part 3. Those movies all kind of blur together at a certain point. But he's in a bunch of other things. Like he was, I think he played Gilgamesh in Hercules, the Kevin Sorbo Hercules. He's a character in the Babylon 5. I think it was a movie that was supposed to cap off the series and then begin the Excalibur series. And he's just in all kinds of things. Has a very, very unique voice. You know, you definitely know him if you saw him. Also have Kane Hodder, who is best known for playing Jason in the Friday the 13th movies It's after a certain point. I don't know when he takes over playing Jason. I don't think it starts with part 2, but I could be wrong. And I think it runs, once he starts, I think it goes all the way to Jason X, which is part 10, where Jason goes to space. Believe it or not, I actually like that one. Even though the whole like going to space thing is usually when franchises have like jumped the shark already, it actually kind of worked there. Then, but for some reason in Freddy vs. Jason, they wanted someone, and I quote, more emotive. For a guy who has no lines and is wearing a hockey mask that you can't see his face. They wanted someone more emotive than the guy who like established what Jason like behaves like his movements, his actions. I don't know. It sounded stupid to me at the time. Still sounds stupid, even though I like Freddy vs. Jason for the absurdity that it is. But yeah, and there's probably some other people I missed. Like this is just just the ones I noticed. I did not write down the name of the actress who plays the main character, however, because she's not a horror movie alumni, I don't believe, from other horror movies. I could be mistaken on that, though. And then we have one other just kind of like shout out to another horror movie. Old Robert Englund's character is a collector of like religious artifacts from like forgotten religions and gods, and one of the statues he has in his statuary. Is that where you keep your statues? I think that's what it's called. I don't know. Like, I feel like that's what that's called, but I could be wrong. Let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong on that one. That is the statue of the demon who I don't know if it is supposed to be Pazuzu, because that's what I've heard elsewhere. And I know that's a demon that they use in like Dungeons and Dragons, and I think it's supposed to be inspired by that or some other mythological thing, or it's Aramon. It's one of the two. I don't remember which one, but it's the statue of the demon from The Exorcist, and probably the exact same prop actually. So yeah, lots of horror movie people filming this. Also, I didn't write the gentleman's name down, but there's a guy who plays a homeless guy in the movie who has some interactions with Reggie Bannister's character. And he, unless I'm very much mistaken, is also in the movie They Live. And I mentioned him in a video about The Fog. And I really should have looked this guy up just to make sure, but I believe this is all the same guy. In They Live, he plays a homeless guy who at the end of the movie seems to be in league with the aliens. I don't know if he was in league with them the entire time. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie. I just remember him like basically telling Roddy Piper and Keith David's characters like, guys, like they own it all. Like jump on the gravy train and enjoy it. Then he like teleports out. I don't know. That's a weird movie. Very anti-establishment. Yeah. So, what's this all about? Oh, also, I guess I really should start saying this in the videos instead of just putting little things down there. If you enjoy the videos, we always appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Right now, this general time frame, we're going to be covering a lot of horror movies. I'm hoping I can get the other guys in on this to have some actual discussion and not just me here blabbering, but we'll see. Scheduling is kind of a problem. So, yeah. So we're probably going to have some top 5, top 10 kind of stuff, and I'm going to see about trying to get some reviews that I can condense down to 3 minutes, because now YouTube Shorts can be 3 minutes long. I haven't fiddled with that, but that is a goal now. And they'll be like, here's the condensed version. Check out the other video over here for the long version. Gotta drive that interaction, feed the algorithm. You know how it works. Or I assume somebody does anyway. So anyway, yeah. So the movie is about a creature called a Djinn. DJ-IN. N. Yeah, blue is second N. And they are the basis for the mythology behind genies. And the whole concept is that genies are not what our modern culture makes them out to be. They're not, happy-go-lucky characters. It's not Robin Williams from Aladdin. Genies are very much in the vein of like the monkey's paw, which if you've never read that story, the whole idea is be very careful what you wish for because you just might get it, but you're going to have no control over how you get it. And so, um, yeah, like you should definitely read the monkey's paw. But here, the idea is that whoever awakens the Djinn gets 3 wishes. Now, up to that point, it goes around and grants single wishes for other people at the cost of their soul. And eventually, he'll claim their souls to power what he's going to need to open up the dimensional gateway to allow the rest of his race through once the person who awoken him casts their 3rd wish. Because that's what they want. To paraphrase the opening crawl, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then he created the angels. And then out of the fires of creation were born the Djinn. Creatures of just absolute malevolent evil. Phenomenal cosmic power, but only in the service of granting wishes. And then humanity. And they're stuck in like the void between worlds. So they want out. They want the earth. And the only way to do that is if they can get someone to actually make the 3rd wish. And so the movie opens back in ancient Persia, where the Sultan, no, it wouldn't have been a Sultan. Maybe it's a Sultan. Doesn't matter. The ruler has been granted the 2nd wish. Now, this is very, like I said, this is very much in the vein of be very careful what you wish for. Because the Djinn, as I said, is just absolutely malevolent. And so if there's a way to twist it, to corrupt it, they will. And the Sultan, the ruler, his 2nd wish is one of those like open-ended, limitless things that just allows the Djinn's malevolence and cruelty and hatred and everything just to pour through. Because what he wishes for is to show me wonders. Well, who defines wonders? That's going to be the guy granting the wish. And so they're there at a party, and like all kinds of just horrific things begin happening. And this is the point that I should note. This is probably not a movie for children because the beginning and the end have like some really, really bizarre creature horror type things happening and pretty violent murders and things like that. The rest of the series is definitely not for children. So, yeah. So, like, one guy gets turned into a snake man. One guy's skeleton claws its way out of his body and goes and starts attacking and killing other people. One woman gets turned into wood. Just weird things like this. And then sorcerer approaches and tells him, don't cast the 3rd wish because the Djinn is trying to use the suffering of the guy's people to get him to make the 3rd wish to cancel the 2nd wish. And that's a recurring theme. So the sorcerer is like, no, don't do it. And he's able to trap the Djinn inside this gemstone, which is then put inside of a statue of Zahura Mazda, I believe, which, at least from what the movie says, and I haven't independently verified this, so if there's any Zoroastrians out there, I apologize if I'm about to butcher your belief system here. But apparently it's the god of Zoroastrianism. And so this particular statue was made after the Muslim takeover of Persia, which is modern day Iran. So the gemstone's inside the statue. So at the beginning of the movie, Robert Englund's character is has been bringing the statue here to the United States. It's on a crane. Guy operating the crane lift is drinking, so he's a little tipsy, and then he spills his drink on the thing, and then it drops, and it crushes Ted Raimi. Breaks open, and a dock worker takes the gemstone out, sells it. The guy he sold it to takes it to be appraised, and the woman who's appraising it, takes it. She's looking at it, blows on it and kind of rubs it. Well, she's the one now. And then as the gemstone's being examined by someone else in a laser thing, it explodes. The Djinn is released. The guy's sitting there dying, and he's like, he's suffering horribly. And the Djinn's like, do you want an end to your suffering? And he's like, yes, please. And he's like, done. And so then the guy dies. And the Djinn, having now granted a wish, begins to take on more of a mortal form, because he was like a smaller creature. And then he runs into a homeless guy who just ran into Reggie Bannister, who's like a pharmacist. And he's sitting there and sees the Djinn, and the Djinn tells him, like, you just said a lot of curses about this guy. Would you actually want to see these things happen? And he's like, well, yeah, but I don't have anything to trade. He goes, well, that's not exactly true. You have a soul. And he's like, I'll make it happen. He's like, so take a moment, consider what you want, make sure it's something you're going to enjoy. And so he's sitting there and he's like, well, I think he should only get cancer and die from it, and he's, and the Djinn's just like, done. And, the Djinn is played by, I believe his name's Alexis Divinoff, I believe is his name. Also has like a very gravelly, kind of unique voice. And so then the guy is in there and, gets cancer and dies instantly, chokes up a bunch of stuff. And then, the homeless guy is sitting there smoking a cigarette, and he's like, the hell with that. And, the Djinn's like, run, tell the others, for the time you have left. And he picks up the cigarette, starts smoking it, goes to the morgue, cuts the face off a corpse and puts it on himself. So now he looks like, then he becomes like the guy. So now he looks like the actor who's actually underneath the makeup. And begins trying to track down our main character. And along the way is granting wishes. People don't realize that they're making wishes around him. He's like, oh, I'd really like this, or I want this, or I want that. And as an example, her employer is like, well, I'd give you her name and I'd give you her home address for $1 million. And he's just like, done. And at that moment, the guy's mom or his grandma is boarding a plane and puts him down as the beneficiary of the $8 million airline insurance policy, and the plane takes off and explodes. So, yeah, things like that just happen throughout the movie as the wishes keep getting twisted, and people getting killed. Then eventually he draws all their souls in, and she finally, he offers her a free wish, which she's like, all right, destroy yourself, blow your brains out. And so he manifests a gun and shoots himself, and the top of his head gets blown off. And he's like, well, that which is eternal cannot die. And it's like, but if it's any consolation, that hurt like hell. So then she's like, well, I want to know about you. And he's like, done. And so he transports her inside the gemstone that he was trapped in, but he's in there as well. And so she sees, what it's like in there, and he gives her this big grandiose speech, but ultimately he's like, I'm everything you people fear. I am despair. And then she wants out, so she has to wish to get out. And so then she's down to just one wish, and then everything winds up at a party for Robert Englund's character. And Robert Englund's character, of course, makes the same mistake that the Sultan did. And because he's like, oh, he's talking about all these fancy parties he's been to. He's like, what I would give to be at a party that we talked about for years and years. And he's like, well, I know of a party that was talked about for ages. One for the history books, you might say. He's like, oh, I would love to have a party like that. He's like, done. And then all the weirdness begins happening. And yeah, a bunch of people start dying in various gruesome ways. He brings statues to life. And it's basically just an open-ended, just start doing weird things policy, wish. And finally, he traps the main character's sister in a painting. Their parents died in a fire. She saved her sister. But in the painting, he's like, oh, you don't like it? Like, he's so lifelike. And he's like, all right, well, fine. Well, it's like I always say, if you can't beat them, burn them. And so he, sets fire inside the painting. And that's whenever the woman, our main character, is finally, she figures out that he can't kill her. Because then he won't get the third wish. But he's like, I don't have to kill you. I just have to make you wish you were dead. And so that's when she realizes that, yeah, he can definitely hurt me, though. So, so that all kind of culminates with her sitting there, kind of thinking back through everything that's happened. And she had already figured out about the statue and where the gemstone came from and everything. And so she starts thinking back, and then she remembers the newspaper articles. She remembered about the guy drinking. And so for her third wish, she's like, I wish so-and-so hadn't been drinking that morning. And the Djinn's gloating like, done. And he's like, because he's like, finally the third wish. And then he's got the gemstone out. And then he's like, wait, what's going on? And like gets sucked into it. Because by doing that, the statue never falls. The statue never breaks open. The guy never gets the gemstone. And it just winds up in Robert Englund's collection. So she essentially undoes the entire movie with her third wish. And the second movie has a kind of a similar, I don't remember exactly what happened, but it's been a while, because it's definitely an inferior movie. But overall, it's a decent movie. Probably 5.5, 6, somewhere in there. It's not great. It's mainly just like, who's who of the horror industry is kind of interesting. The plot itself is interesting. An evil genie. You don't get a whole lot of that. At least you didn't at that point in time. And also, if you're a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, or a game master in some other thing, and you want to get some ideas on thematically how to twist wish spells in the game, this is the movie for you. And you should also read The Monkey's Paw. But if you watch this, like, I wouldn't expect the same exact wishes. You're not going to get that. But you get to see how one could twist those wishes. Because that's the thing with, like, the wish spell in particular. You probably want to discourage people from abusing it. And the best way to do that is to make them think, oh, well, I'm just going to wish for this. And like, yeah, sure, you'll get that. Kind of. Be like, oh, I want a mountain of gold. And, then you flatten them with a mountain of gold that falls from space or something, But yeah, it'll give you some ideas. And again, not really a kid's movie. There's very gruesome parts at the beginning and the end of the movie. In between, not quite as much, but the beginning and the end, definitely. And the sequels are strictly inferior. The second one still has the main guy as the Djinn. People break into Robert Englund's place and I think break the statue and somehow get it. The effects are worse in the sequel. It was definitely a lower budget. Does have possibly the greatest scene in the franchise, though. There's a guy in prison. Somehow the Djinn winds up in prison. And a lot of people wish for a lot of things in prison. And so this guy wishes to have his lawyer go fuck himself. And he goes in there just in time to hear his lawyer say that he's probably going to win on appeal. and then his lawyer, like his lower torso like breaks and twists around so that it's physically possible for him to do that, and then he proceeds to do so, which obviously ultimately kills him. So yeah, like that will definitely stick with you if you see the sequel. Then 3 and 4 had a different guy playing the Djinn. I think he actually falls in love with a woman in one of them. There's an angel that shows up to fight him in one of them, and 3 and 4 just get really stupid. So I recommend, if you're going to watch these, stick with number 1. Tread carefully after that. Enter at your own risk. Be careful what you wish for. Yeah. So, yeah, that's about all I got to say on this one. Like I said, I'd rate it probably about a 6. It's decent enough. I was entertained by it, but avoid the sequels. Yeah, there's fertile ground for potential for like your campaigns, for your Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. And I might do a separate video where I talk about that, because it's more than just the learning about how to twist wishes. Just get the inspiration. Also, the idea of the Djinn itself could be used elsewhere. But yeah, that's about all I got to say on it. Let me know down in the comments if you've seen the movie. Do you plan on watching the movie? Are you like me and you've unfortunately seen all of the sequels? Do you remember anything from the sequels? Do you actually have a better view of the sequels than I do? All of the above. I want to hear about it. Down in the comments. Are there any other 90s sci-fi and horror movies you want to hear about? I have a rather extensive list at this point that is probably going to take me until like 2 years from now to finally get through. Because I don't just do these, boom, boom, boom. We have other videos here on the channel. So anyway, just let me know down in the comments about all that. Like, share, subscribe. We always appreciate that. Sharing and commenting are the best ways to help us grow the channel, and I really appreciate that. Got a lot of new subscribers lately. I think it's a distinct possibility we'll hit 450 before the end of October. I'd really like to hit 500 by the end of the year. We'll see if that happens. Hopefully it does. And thank all you folks for helping us get to where we are, and hopefully you'll stick with us going forward into the future. But yeah, that's about all I've got to say. So see you folks later, and again, remember, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it.